talking, be sobbing, but still talking shit like they ballin'.
Football in the 1990s was very different from what it is now. No team really dominated in this decade, as there were 9 Champions League winning teams from 7 different countries in these 10 years. It was also a very important era in football history because it was the beginning of the cultural change from playing highly defensive football to a more offense-oriented style of play. This was also a decade filled with talent, as there were 10 different Ballon d'Or winners in these 10 years. Here are some of the best, worst, and the most controversial Ballon d'Or winners from the 1990s. George Weah, 1995. This was easily the most underwhelming and undeserving Ballon d'Or season of the decade. George Weah scored 18 goals and provided 3 assists in 53 games, which isn't that great considering he played as a striker. But what drove the narrative towards him were his performances in the Champions League, where he scored 7 goals in 10 games. He was a very important part of the PSG team that made it to the semi-finals of that competition. But these numbers are a little deceiving, as 4 of the 7 goals came against weak teams like Spartak Moscow and Dynamo Kiev, and he scored just 3 goals in the other 6 games against quality sides. He didn't add a lot of playmaking value to the team as he was a below average passer. He was a pretty good dribbler because of his combination of physical strength and control, but it didn't really blend well with his mediocre passing and subpar shooting that season. Jurgen Klinsmann and Patrick Kluivert were both more deserving of the award, but my pick would be Jari Litmanen. He played as a number 10 and was a driving attacking force for Ajax that season. He was a great finisher as he scored 25 goals in the season, 6 of which came in the Champions League. Although he provided only 5 assists, his dribbling combined with his passing ability made him one of the best playmakers of his era. Ajax scored 106 goals in 34 league games they played, which was by far the most in Eredivisie. They also won the Champions League against all the odds. So, Jari Litmanen was more deserving of this award in 1995. Lothar Matthäus, 1990. Matthäus was a defensive midfielder and he played for Inter Milan and Germany in 1990. He scored 13 goals and provided 8 assists in 30 appearances that season, which is decent for a defensive midfielder. He was very good in progressing the ball into the final third, and he also added a lot of value to the team defensively with his tackles and interceptions. He was the captain of the Germany team that won the World Cup that year, so that definitely helped his case. The reason I ranked this season so low is because he wasn't even the best player on his teams. Andreas Brehme was better than him for both Inter Milan and Germany. Brehme was a better playmaker because of his ability to make overlapping runs and cross as a left back. He was also a better defender than Matthäus. Matthäus could have been a much better playmaker if he was a good passer, but he was a subpar passer which stunted his attacking value. Salvatore Schillaci had an amazing World Cup and Paul Gascoigne also had a great year, but my pick would be Franco Baresi. He was easily the best defender in the world, and he was the anchor of the AC Milan defense that conceded only 27 goals in 34 league appearances. He played a very important part in Milan's Champions League glory. He was fantastic in the World Cup too, being the anchor of the Italian defense that conceded only 2 goals in 7 games. Matthäus was a great player, but it seems like he won it because he was the captain of the World Cup winning team. Jean-Pierre Papin, 1991. Papin was a centre forward for Marseille. He was an elite finisher inside the box and was very well known for his ability to convert volleys. He was always a scoring threat inside the penalty area, as he could score goals with both feet and could also score headers from crosses. He scored 36 goals and provided 4 assists in the 50 games he played that season. He led Marseille to the Ligue 1 title, scoring 23 goals in the league and led them to the European Cup final, scoring 6 goals in 9 games. But he was very one-dimensional because he barely added anything to the team as a playmaker. So the only way he could impact his team was by scoring goals, which made him and his team more predictable on attack. Because of his lack of playmaking ability, they couldn't really unlock the potential of other players, and without them feeding the ball to him, he was very ineffective. He had a 9:1 goals to assist ratio this season, which was higher than any other striker in this decade. He was also not that good of a shooter outside the box, but he definitely deserved the Ballon d'Or because no other player played at that level in 1991. Him just being a consistent goal scorer makes him a very valuable asset to the team, which is why he won the Ballon d'Or by a large margin. Risto Stojko, 1994. Stojko played as a striker for FC Barcelona. His playstyle was very similar to that of Jean-Pierre Papin. He was an elite goal scorer, but not that good of a playmaker. He was not as good as Papin at finishing inside the box, but Stojko was a better shooter outside the box and was also capable of making good passes, which added another dimension to his game. He scored 24 goals and provided 12 assists in 48 appearances that season. He was an integral part of the Barcelona team that won La Liga that season. He led them to the Champions League final as well, scoring 7 goals in 8 games, and he scored twice in the semi-finals. But what really made this season special was his showing in the World Cup, scoring 6 goals in 7 games. He won the World Cup Golden Boot and led Bulgaria to the semi-finals of the tournament. Although Papin in 1990-91 had a better club season than Stojko, I'd give Stojko the edge because of his World Cup performances. However, I think Paolo Maldini should have been the winner of this award in 1994. He was the anchor of the Milan defense that conceded only 15 goals in the entire league season. He was the best player of the AC Milan team that won the Serie A and the Champions League that season. He had a legendary performance in the finals of the UCL that season, as he helped Milan keep a clean sheet against the Barcelona super team in the absence of Baresi and Costa Curta. He was also fantastic in the World Cup in the absence of Baresi, being one of the most important players of the Italian team that made it to the final of the tournament. Even though Stojko had a great season, it is shocking that Maldini didn't win this year, even after having arguably the greatest defensive season of all time. Matthias Sammer 1996. Sammer played as a sweeper for Dortmund. A sweeper was a centre-back who played behind the defensive line and had the freedom to move up the pitch with the ball. This position was called the libero, and Sammer mastered this position. He was smart enough to read attacks and tackle at the right time. Although he wasn't very physical, he was able to clear up the mess left by the defensive line because of his intelligence and timing of tackles. He was also very good with the ball at his feet, so this made ball progression really easy for Dortmund. This can be seen by the impact he had on his team offensively, as Dortmund scored 2.41 goals per game in the 22 games he played, and without him, the scoring output dropped to 1.91 goals per game. He was the best player of the Dortmund team that won the Bundesliga that year. He was also great in the Euros and was an integral part of the Germany team that won the tournament that year. He scored 2 goals in the tournament, one of them being a crucial goal against Croatia in the quarterfinals. The reason he is not higher on this list is because I'm skeptical about the defensive impact he had on the team. Since he had the freedom to go high up the pitch, it made his team vulnerable to counterattacks. He wasn't really that fast, so he could be caught on transitions. He wasn't really good in aerial duels as well, as he was easily overpowered by the strikers at the time. This could be seen in Dortmund's defensive record with and without him. They conceded just 0.75 goals per game without him, but they conceded 1.31 goals per game with him. I don't know how much of this is because of his weaknesses, because they did face relatively weaker teams in the games he missed. But overall, he was a high value player for both club and country that year, making him the only deserving winner of the Ballon d'Or in 1996. Marco van Basten 1992. Van Basten was an exceptional and revolutionary striker for AC Milan. In an era where strikers were expected to hover around the box and convert the chances fed to them, he was dropping back in midfield, dribbling past defenders and making great passes. So, Milan could unlock the potential of their other forwards Rijkaard and Gullit because of Van Basten's playmaking ability. He scored 29 goals and provided 13 assists in 38 appearances that season. He was the best forward of the AC Milan attack that scored 74 goals, the most by any Serie A team that season. He was a very important part of the AC Milan team that won the league by going unbeaten for the entire season. But his finishing had declined a little bit and his performances in the Euros were underwhelming. In my opinion, Paolo Maldini should have been the winner of this award. Although the Milan team was very well rounded, it was their defense that made them as great as they were. They conceded just 21 goals in the 34 league games that season, and Maldini was head and shoulders above everyone else in the world defensively. But it's not surprising that he didn't win it, as Milan were banned from the European Cup in 1992 and Italy didn't qualify for the Euros. He missed out on 2 major competitions, which wasn't entirely his fault. Stojko also had an amazing season, as he led Barcelona to European glory with his 4 goals in 9 games. But I feel like Maldini was so much better than everybody else in his absolute peak, so the performances of other players in the Euros and the European Cup wouldn't make up the difference. But it is completely understandable to give the award to Van Basten in 1992. Rivaldo 1999. Rivaldo was one of the most talented and versatile forwards of the 1990s. He could play on either side of the wings, he could play as an attacking midfielder, and he could play as a striker. He was an amazing finisher and was a decent passer. He also often dropped back to the midfield area to carry the ball forward with his dribbling. This combination of speed, control, and lethal finishing made him very valuable to Barcelona and Brazil. In the 1998-99 season, he scored 29 goals and provided 18 assists in 48 appearances. He played a crucial role in helping Barcelona to win the La Liga by a huge margin and contributed to 40 of the 87 goals they scored that season. He was also amazing in the Copa America, scoring 5 goals. He also put up a man of the match performance in the final, scoring 2 goals and providing 1 assist in the 3-0 victory against Uruguay. The reason he isn't higher is because of his lackluster Champions League performances, and I'm a little skeptical about the value he added to his team through his playmaking. Although he had 18 assists, most of them were simple lateral passes or short crosses. He was also a beneficiary of a great team with a great system, so him scoring 29 goals is kind of what the team expected from him. David Beckham had a great season as well, scoring 9 goals and providing 20 assists while being the best player of the Manchester United team that won the treble. But Rivaldo's Copa America brilliance gave him the upper hand in the Ballon d'Or voting, so this award was very much deserved. Roberto Baggio 1993. Baggio was one of the best attacking midfielders in his prime. He was a potent finisher, but what really made him special was his ability to create chances for his teammates. He was an amazing dribbler and could blend his dribbling and passing to generate a lot of goals. He played for a Juventus team that had a mediocre squad. He scored 30 goals and provided 11 assists in 43 appearances. Even though Rivaldo had better stats, I think Baggio's club season was much better because he didn't get the service Rivaldo got and still scored just as many goals and was much more valuable to his team. He scored 21 goals and provided 8 assists in Serie A, which is about 50% of all the goals Juventus scored that season. In the 27 league games he played, Weah got 1.2 points per game, which would rank 3rd in Serie A. In the 7 games he didn't play, they got just 0.85 points per game, which would rank 16th in the league. In all the games he played, they scored 2 goals per game, which would rank number 1 in the league for offense. Without him, they scored just 0.7 goals per game, which would rank last in the league offensively. This level of impact was unheard of at the time. They also considered Baggio to be a superior playmaker compared to Rivaldo, even though he had less assists. This is because of Baggio's tendency to find an open teammate more often than Rivaldo. He could have had more assists if he played higher up the pitch and played with better teammates, both of which weren't under his control. He was also fantastic in the UEFA Cup, scoring 6 goals and providing 1 assist while leading Juve to UEFA Cup glory. He scored all the 3 goals for Juve in the semi-final against PSG and scored twice against Dortmund in the final. Dennis Bergkamp was great this season for Ajax, scoring 33 goals and providing 4 assists. Maldini and Baresi had brilliant seasons as usual, anchoring the Milan defense and leading the team to the Serie A title and UCL final. But it is difficult to overlook the impact Baggio had on his team, which is why he definitely deserved to win the 1993 Ballon d'Or. Zinedine Zidane 1998. Zidane was easily the best central midfielder of his era. He played for a Juventus team with a solid midfield which lacked creativity. Although Edgar Davids was a decent dribbler, he was a below-average passer, so Zidane had to carry the burden of creating shots. He scored 11 goals and provided 15 assists in 48 appearances that season. He played a crucial role in helping Juventus win the Serie A title that season. Although having Filippo Inzaghi and Del Piero up front really helped, Zidane's ability to generate attacks played a key role in helping Juventus to score the most goals in Serie A that season. He also led the Champions League in assists with 7. He led them to the Champions League final with a goal and an assist against Monaco in the semi-final after recording a hat-trick of assists in the quarter-finals. He was also really good in the World Cup that year, scoring 2 goals against Brazil in the final to lead them to World Cup glory. Ronaldo Nazario had a great year as well, scoring 34 goals and providing 4 assists in 47 appearances that year. He also won the World Cup Golden Ball with 4 goals. But he just wasn't as valuable to Inter Milan as Zidane was for Juventus, since his goal scoring had taken a dip and had stretches in the year where he wasn't that good. Due to Zidane's consistency and impact on his team, he definitely deserved to win the award. Ronaldo Nazario 1997. 1996-97 was Ronaldo's breakthrough year. He burst onto the scene and no defense had answers to that type of talent. Nobody had seen that combination of skill, speed, strength, control and finishing. In an era where elite forwards were struggling to score 30 goals in a season, he scored 47 goals in 49 appearances. As crazy as these numbers are, they don't do justice to his performances. He played a major role in helping Barcelona score over 100 La Liga goals this season, and he scored 5 goals in the UEFA Cup Winners' Cup. He also scored in the final against PSG to win the title. He was great in Copa America as well, with 5 goals and 2 assists to help them win the title. He also scored a hat-trick and provided 2 assists in the Confederations Cup final that year. He had a goalless spell between November and January, but he made it up with a crazy stretch in the end of the season, scoring 12 goals and providing 5 assists in his last 10 La Liga games. Although he had 13 assists, I wouldn't consider him as a great playmaker because most of them came by simple lateral passes in the penalty area and he couldn't create chances for others by himself outside the box. Nevertheless, his historic scoring ability made him easily the best Ballon d'Or winner of the decade and there was no competition for him that year. So, it is no surprise that he won the Ballon d'Or that year and he was easily the best Ballon d'Or winner of the 1990s. With 10 different Ballon d'Or winners in 10 years, the 90s decade was filled with talent. But it also signifies the inconsistencies of a few players. Players like Ronaldo, Baggio and Sammer could never replicate the Ballon d'Or winning seasons. Even in the 90s, defenders weren't really given the credit they deserved and that culture is still prevalent in this era. The fact that players like Maldini and Baresi haven't won a Ballon d'Or is astonishing. It was also an era where strikers who scored about 25 to 30 goals were considered elite, whereas now it is more common. Many fans believe that narratives began to influence the Ballon d'Or rankings from the Messi-Ronaldo era, but the reality is it has been an influence since the 1990s, where players on better teams with better stats tend to win the award, and that is completely understandable because journalists who are voting for the award want to appeal to the general public, and giving the award to someone like Jari Litmanen doesn't satisfy that purpose. However, the award should be given to the player with the most impact on the football field to retain the authenticity of the award and to also give a better representation of the football landscape during that year. For example, looking back from now, many people may think that Weah was the best player in 1995, which isn't true at all. With that being said, I want to know what you guys think about this topic. Hope you all enjoyed this video and as always, until next time.